Welcome to episode 42 of Confessions of an SEO. This is Carolyn Holzman, and here's where we talk about the people side of SEO. I promise, agnostic information from someone who's been there on both sides. A business owner, brick and mortar style for over 2 decades. Wow, that sounds like forever. And now a reformed client SEO of 12 years. A seriously seeking SEO researcher, tester, and consultant. Because of, or maybe in spite of, my experiences with client SEO and the lingering PTSD, I deeply believe the farmer and the cowboy should be friends. There are mutual revenue opportunities when both sides understand each other better. So if you're an SEO, consider this an SEO oasis where your profession is respected, and where you might from time to time hear things that imply you are expected to want to be better no matter how good you are. And as for business owners or principals who are working with SEO marketing group, I hope you hear something that will both illuminate your interactions with greater understanding and respect for your SEO team, and something that may help you understand what SEO is at a higher level. So when you're evaluating the SEO being done, you can do so without trying to micromanage everything. Welcome to this week's Confessions. I thought this week would be a good one to do one of my Facebook question and answer type episodes, and I started scanning for the topic, and I couldn't help but see a larger issue. And fair warning, this may turn into a rant. I fully understand that likely the best SEOs out there are doing SEO, making money, and not hanging out in social media answering questions, much less asking them. And it shows. I was trawling for a meaty, thought-provoking client SEO question that I could dissect, and the more I scrolled, the more I could find nothing but, here in Texas, what we would call lipstick on a pig questions. My apologies to pigs everywhere. But I couldn't help but notice that it depressed me reading what passes online as SEO discussions. So I kind of worked through that and realized that the topic that I want to talk about is, where do you go for answers to your SEO questions? I won't tell you that the other title I toyed with was a title of an article I read by Chris Carter called SEO Stupidity in the Wild. Now, Chris is definitely worth Googling, but that title made me laugh. But I think a more accurate description would be, even though someone says they are in SEO, they may not be at a position in their journey to see as far ahead as another SEO. It appears that for beginner and maybe even some intermediate SEOs, they appear to do one of two things: post questions on social media that sort of reveal maybe they're early in their journey. They post questions that it's clear that they may be mistaking what an SEO tool says to do for actual knowledge. To illustrate that first one, one question was someone, and bless their heart, who asked the question about whether they should optimize a no-index page the same way they would optimize a page that would be indexed. We'll come back to that. The second question that stood out was someone asked whether or not we can have more than one focus keyword on a page. And if the answer is yes, tell them how it worked. If you're listening and thinking, you might be saying, Carolyn, are you a tester? Isn't testing all about asking questions? And you would be right, good person. I am, and I do. And I'm not saying the act of asking questions is wrong or stupid. My question is, where do you go for answers when you have questions? I'm not saying don't ask stupid questions. I ask them all the time because I want to learn and I want to build on what I know. And the only way I know to do that is to accept that there's something that I don't know. In my mastermind group, we basically ask what on the surface might appear to be stupid questions all the time. Like, what is a backlink really? What are the mechanics of that working of that backlink behind the scene? So, this is how breakthroughs happen. I suspect, I don't know for sure, but I don't think we're ever going to get to the end of all questions. So I'm using these questions as examples to illustrate. Now, the first question tells me where that person is on their SEO journey, and it's not very far, and likely they will be spinning their wheels without too much progress for a long time until they recognize or get to a point where they realize they need to invest in their learning. They don't need to come into social media, ask a question, and get smacked down like they were with the responses they got. That's so depressing. Now, there are just too many things in the optimization question to unpack, and I don't want to be unkind. But if you understand why you're optimizing, it makes sense why that question is so jarring. Part of my journey right now involves indexation, and you may already know that I'm on this deep dive into whether Google is taking on new content and how is it doing it. Is it only doing simple indexing or JavaScript rendering at this particular moment for the average site? And you can find all the latest on the data by searching for Google Index Detector. It's on American Way Media. If you're going to be doing any type of SEO activity, understanding indexation is a must. It is not an option the way that gravity is not optional on this earth. We are all subject to it. But you don't need to ask 50 people a question and get 50 opinions and try to find and sort your way through it. I kind of want to help by saying Google will tell you, and Google will tell you for free. And what I mean by that is you can find answers to some of the basic questions by using Google and seeing what happens. For instance, make 2 web pages. Set one to index and set the other one to no index. And then just try submitting them through the Google Search Console. What happens? This particular question could literally be answered in 5 minutes. You could copy and paste your bio on each one of the 2 pages. It doesn't matter. Don't use, what content would I put on them? Not important. Just try to do it. So if you understand that optimization is helping your page talk to Google so Google will know what your page is about, and no index is a way to say to Google, I don't want my page to talk with you because I don't need you to understand it. Maybe then you can see how that question is like a snake swallowing its tail. As I say, chaos that leads to destruction until there is greater understanding. So if you're listening and you're not an SEO, I'm going to back up just a sec. Indexation is where you can find your page when you search for a phrase or a passage that's on that page, and Google will find that document and serve it up to you in the result. Then and only then is it in the index and therefore indexed. Getting crawled by a Google bot is not the same as being indexed. And I have days of data to substantiate that claim, and you can find that on the Google Index Detector page that I mentioned previously. So getting back to the asking SEO questions from strangers, there's a saying in football. When you throw the ball, 3 things can happen and 2 of them are bad. Now, as SEOs, we all typically work alone, so I understand how really social media works. It's sometimes irresistible not to ask if you want to find something. And good for you, right? Putting yourself out. As an SEO, you might want to look at a smaller group, smaller than, say, 18,000 members of a Facebook page, when you are ready to invest in yourself. A good place, a better place. For less than $100 a month, you could join a community of SEOs. Now, I've mentioned the one that I belong to before, and I love that I'm not working alone anymore, even though I am working. I guess we work alone, we just don't work in isolation. The group that I belong to is Internet Marketing Gold, and if you want to check it out, I have a little short link that I can give to you here. I'll put it in the description, but it's a bit.ly link. It's bit.ly/SEO friends. And there are courses in there, and someone's even gone to the effort of organizing them in a potential progression so that you can literally start at beginner level courses and move up into more advanced, probably right up to the turn the camera off type SEO training, the real advanced stuff. As to the second question, this was the second question that caught my eye. They were asking, and it tells me that it's someone who knows enough about SEO to be aware of a tool and to be using it. But unfortunately, the tool isn't Google. And just as a reminder, this question was about whether or not we can have more than one focused keyword on a page. And yes, tell me how it works. Now, I don't think that's a professional SEO asking the question, but anymore these days it could be, which pains me. Now, I also think that this question comes from what I call that damned SEO plugin Yoast. The word focus keyword was my clue. And I'm almost equally sure that whoever this is, that they are likely assuming that by getting all those lights green in Yoast, they've done everything they should, and this page should be ranking. I am irritated by such things, and I'll tell you why. It's personal. I was hauled into a meeting because there was a great concern that I wasn't working to make those Yoast lights green, and Google was prevented from ranking those pages for more keywords because of it. Just so you know, I'm not a fan of the green light, red light theory of SEO, although it's an inside joke on the Google Index Detector page, and when you see it, you will know it. This is a higher level question than the first one, but basically relying on a tool and conflating what that tool says with what Google actually cares about. Like in every pursuit, one must get to the basics. You have to handle the basic principles. The path to mastery is not asking questions in order to shortcut the real work. You can't just decide you're going to be a brain surgeon and start asking the last person who said something medical or who may have a license to protect, what's the best way to make an incision? That would be ludicrous, we all agree. I can take photos with my cell phone and think that the fact that I can take photos makes me a photographer. But a true photographer is going to have better tools, more knowledge, and understanding of the environment, lighting, and experience. If I assume that because I can take photos with a tool, such as my camera on the phone, that I can call myself a photographer, then I really can't ask another photographer why my photos are not so good and expect them to provide me with a full lifetime of experience through their answer. But there is an expert out there when it comes to SEO. And for the record, it isn't John Mueller. It's what we can see with our own eyes under our own noses. The expert is Google. Same way, if I think I'm doing SEO by filling in the fields that a WordPress plugin tells me to do, that I'm doing all the necessary SEO activity for success, well, that's just silly, and I think this is turning into a rant. I do want to applaud those that try to answer, because I'm reaching the point where I just don't want to. Not because I'm mean, but because I'm fueling that behavior to continue. I'm potentially handing over a fish that just might feed them until the next question, and they still don't know who to ask. Honestly, I think, how can I say this? If you want to climb Mount Everest, take the proper gear. Please don't put on a t-shirt and flip-flops and ask where the trailhead is. So again, here's my question. Where do you go when you have an SEO question? Let me pass on an idea that was passed on to me. Test it. Try it. Put a page up or two and see what happens. Ask yourself what you're trying to do. How will you know you've achieved it? And how will you know when you haven't? You know, it's kind of like what's Google and what's yours? You know, finding that balance. And if you have the resources, and again, you know, I would have loved to have had this kind of support in my early days in SEO. But get yourself into a community of other SEO marketers. Feel free, if you do want to check out IMG, feel free to come in and introduce yourself. Don't rely on others to push you further into your SEO path. Just start walking it. Get the basics down. If you don't know where to start, just say that. There are resources that you can access, but having them and accessing them are two different things. You know, it's the same as you can have a gym membership and never go. No one is going to do the work for you. I'd suggest the community that I'm in, but there are others. And something to remember is we all started somewhere. So if pursuing SEO on your own for your business is too much effort, I get it. Well, hire a professional SEO for a consult. Seeking out a training that starts where you are. Give what you're trying to do the respect it deserves. Give it to yourself. Give it to your business. You want to succeed. So I think you need to invest in yourself. Position yourself for success. And if you really, in your heart of hearts, don't want to do it to the level that it requires, you should maybe consider swinging some of your ad budget over to SEO and hire someone who is further along on their journey than you are. You don't have anything to prove and everything to gain. There is no easy button in SEO, and relying on SEO tools as a sort of replacement for actual work is not real. Using your brain is not optional when it comes to successful SEO. That's going to do it for today. Okay, thank you for listening. Appreciate receiving your questions and comments. You send them to confessions@americanwaymedia.com. And it's just a reminder that, you know, the type of this type of content comes out of the SEO testing community. And if you don't know what SEO testing is, I did a early episode, I think it was episode 8, What is SEO testing? And yeah, it's just like kind of what we did in junior high. Hypothesis, setup, results, writing up the summary. If you're curious about that, or maybe want to understand more about why I'm such a strong proponent of SEO testing, check out episode 8. Now, if you're subscribing to the podcast, wherever you're listening to it, if you haven't done so, please do subscribe, because without those signs, I might move on to other labor of love projects in the new year. Let your friends know about Confessions. If you want to share it with colleagues or business owners, just copy the URL. It's on Audible, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, everywhere. If you haven't settled on one source for your podcast, you can easily find it. You just Google Confessions of an SEO. You can't miss it. I've almost taken over page 1 with it. We all stand to make more business and success together when both the SEOs and the business owners understand each other. It's been my pleasure to be your host. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you in the SERPs.